Getting it out. Exporting your project to various media. Now that I have my video all edited together and it's ready to go, I can now show you various ways in which to get your media out of Premiere and into various formats. So if you go here to File, Export, Media. So up here is where you select your formats. AAC audio and AIFF are sound formats. Animated GIF is an animated picture file. AVI is a movie compression. AVI uncompressed is also film. Bump map is picture format. DNX HD, which is high-res, high-definition video formats often associated with Avid. DPX, which is an image file format. F4V and FLV, which are container formats and are generally F4V files, generally contain video data that is encoded with H.264, and the AAC audio codec FLV files usually contain data encoded using Onto VP6 or Sorensen Spark codec and the audio data encoded as an MP3. GIF is an image format. H.264 is a video export format. H.264 Blu-ray is an even higher resolution video format, JPEG image. MP3 is an audio format. MPEG-2 is a video format, which is an older compression format, but it has less compression. MPEG-2 Blu-ray is MPEG-2 that's specifically focused on exporting for Blu-ray discs. MPEG-2 DVD exports an M4V file and a separate sound file for authoring DVDs. MPEG-4, which is video compression. MXF OP1A, also usually associated with Avid. P2 movie, this is also a container format, usually associated with high definition cameras, film cameras or video cameras. PNG, PNG is an image format. QuickTime is a movie format. Targa and TIFF are both image formats, high resolution image formats. Waveform audio is a sound format. And lastly, at the bottom, which we can't quite see, Windows Media, which is a video format. So let's say that I'm going to do H.264, which is video. Under presets, I have many presets that are pulling up. Can't even see the whole window. Basically, there are many different options. 3GP is usually associated with exporting to phones or for mobile devices, Amazon Kindle specifically, Android phones. There's also, for the Android tablet, Apple TV, iPad, iPhone, Barnes & Noble Nook and Nook tablets, HD, various resolutions, so this 720p, that stands for 720 pixels tall and progressive scan at a frame rate of 23.976. 720p 25 is PAL, 29.97 is NTSC, North American standard frame rate, and then 1080i, higher resolution, that's always referring to the vertical resolution, 1080i, 1080p progressive scan, NTSC. So there's a lot of different options about how you can export even directly to Vimeo or YouTube.
For example, I often use these settings when I'm creating clips for my tutoring website, Tunimations.com.
Once you've chosen what your format will be, very often you can just choose Match Source, and Match Source is going to choose based on your sequence settings. Then here you can choose your output name. If you click this opens up a dialog box where you can specify where you would like to save the file and what you would like to call the file. So for example, here I'm going to save this as Export Movie and click Save. Export Video, if I want to export video, want to leave that checked on. Export Audio, want to export audio, got to leave that checked on. This is showing you what your settings currently are. So it's going to save to the folder I'm saving these videos to for the tutorial at 720 by 480 resolution, 30 frames a second or 29.97 frames a second, Lower is which field it's rendering first. And then this is more breakdown of exactly what the settings are for sound and for bit rate of the video, etc. And this shows the sound is being recorded as AAC 320 kilobytes per second at 48 kilohertz in stereo. And this shows my source clip, sequence clip 1, and its format and frame rate. Very rarely will you ever want to even mess with these settings as far as changing any of these settings. Most often, the default settings are the ones you would want. And varying those settings is usually done by selecting different preset as opposed to changing it manually. Changing them without knowing exactly why you're doing it or what you're doing can potentially give you not as good a result as you would hope for. Here it's showing individually the audio frame rates and settings and formats. Once I have all this stuff selected, then I just click Export. If I click Q, that will add it to Adobe Media Encoder Q. If I, for example, had Media Encoder set up on a different computer and wanted this to render off of my workstation, then sending it to Media Encoder would allow it to be rendered on a different machine or rendered at a later time based on a schedule or an appointment. If I just want to render it directly immediately, then I just click Export and it will export immediately. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this rather than make you sit there and watch that. When it's done, then that movie file or sound file or whatever is in the folder that I specified here. If I wanted to export to DVD, then what I could do is go to Format, MPEG-2 DVD or Blu-ray, and those files will export there, and I can then bring them into Adobe Encore. When exporting files to Adobe Encore, then you can set up chapter markers. You can add chapter markers directly here in Premiere, give them names, make comments, and that information, those chapter markers, if you were creating a DVD, for example, those chapter markers will carry over into Encore, or you can set them up in Encore. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to render this movie as an MPEG-2 DVD. So I'm going to go here, go to File, Export Media, MPEG-2 DVD. I'm going to output the name as Anim DVD. And you see that it says that it's saving video file M2V. It doesn't mention the audio, but it does export the audio separately as well. Click Save and click Export. And I will come back to you as soon as this is done rendering. We will look at it in Encore. In CS6, not only can you select Export Media and has the same kind of folder structure as you would expect to see in Premiere CC, all of this stuff is almost identical. One thing you can do in CS6 is you can select Dynamic Link and send to Encore. That automatically takes your project file and sends it directly to Encore and imports all that information. The reason that it's set up directly this way is because Encore was bundled with Premiere CS6. The reason that you can't do that in CC is because the software was not bundled directly with it. However, anyone who has membership with Premiere Creative Cloud can download Encore CS6 as a standalone. And by importing the file the way I'm showing, then you still can access that information. You can import a Premiere project from within Encore, and it basically does the same thing. In our next section, we will look in detail at how to bring your footage from Premiere into Adobe Encore for the purposes of creating a DVD.